You're listening to the Every Day is a New Day show. Inspirational conversations with movers and shakers about moving forward and choosing to embrace a positive outlook. Now, here's your host, Kim O'Neill.
Welcome. My name's Kim O'Neill, and I'm a twice certified transformational coach, Reiki master, best-selling author, podcast host, former crime analyst, and big believer in learning from everything so you can confidently move forward in life. You can join us for the live shows most Wednesdays on Facebook at 6 p.m. Pacific Time. And now, here's today's newest awesome guest. Welcome to a very special episode of the Every Day is a New Day show, where I'm going to be speaking with 5 experts. We might have an extra one pop on with us about preventing holiday burnout. Such an important topic throughout the year, but absolutely important to be mindful of as we get closer to the holidays when life can get really, really busy, right? So I am your host, Kim O'Neill, and I am excited to be bringing to you everyone that we're speaking with today who has a very unique background that absolutely provides really added value and insight to the topic of burnout. If you are with us live, I absolutely encourage you to go ahead and say hello in the comments. Let us know where you're watching from. And if you have any questions or insights or ahas that show up as we move through today's show, go ahead and let us know what those are, because we love interacting with you as we go as well. With that said, I'm going to go ahead and get started with our very first guest today. I am going to introduce you to Dr. Rhoberta Shaler. How are you, Dr. Rhoberta?
I am really well, and I'm excited we're talking about this because my particular specialty are those relentlessly difficult, toxic people who love to ruin holidays and celebrations. So if you have somebody in your life that you're going, oh my goodness, I'm going to have to see them, we'll talk.
I'm so glad that you're here and you're going to be able to share your expertise in that area. Wonderful. Thank you for being here. Next, I want to introduce you to Whitney Gordon-Mead. Welcome, Whitney.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here, Kim. I'm just happy for those who are listening to us, because this is such a needed conversation. We don't get an operations manual or a map for how to navigate the holidays with our health intact. So, I wish I had something like this to refer to decades ago when, so I could have avoided succumbing to burnout. And, having healed myself from burnout, I really know and I feel sincere compassion for the challenges that women face as they search for physical and mental, emotional, even spiritual balance.
Yeah.
It's just great for me. I love this topic.
I'm glad to have you here. I know we recently spoke, and you absolutely have a lot of expertise and your personal experience as well to share with our audience today. So Thank you for being here. And next, I'd like to introduce you to Bruce Langford. Bruce, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. On my end, it looks like Bruce is frozen.
Yeah,
Bruce, it does. Okay. So grateful to have Bruce here. As you can see, he is the host of the popular podcast Mindfulness Mode, and he has a lot of expertise to share in this arena as well. I'm going to absolutely bring you back, Bruce, but for now, I'm going to go ahead and put you back into the lobby, and we're going to bring on Sue Priver.
Hi, Kim.
Hi, Sue. Welcome.
Thank you. And thank you for having me here today. So I am a world record-holding powerlifter. I deadlift 380 pounds and have used a lot of what I've learned in training and in competition to work with other athletes and with executives on leadership as well as performance. So one of the key things that I've learned is I can do anything that I want. I just can't do everything. And the more honest that I am with myself, what my current priorities are, and using my purpose-based time management system, which I want to share with an overview with everybody here, it really clarifies what I can do, what my priorities are, and makes things really easy to say no to when they don't fit that.
Awesome. Oh my gosh, I'm excited to hear more about that. And so with that said, we have some other guests that are probably going to be coming through. They're not here with us in the lobby at the moment. So let's go ahead and get into it for those that I have right here on screen at the moment. As we talk about, I think let's go right into, Sue, what you were talking about. You were talking about time management. And what I really hear with that, what was coming through for me was really that importance of paying attention to priorities. And of course, yourself is going to be a big part of that. Will you tell us more about your time management system and what you were starting to share with us there?
Absolutely. So for purpose-based time management, the key to figure out is what amount of time you're thinking about. So usually I chunk things into either a month or into 90 days, sometimes even as short as a week, just to get through life, because life gets crazy and I just need a small chunk of time to focus on. And then I figure out what is my top priority right now. Sometimes it's my business, sometimes it's my family. The other areas that I definitely pay attention to are my social life, my spiritual life, my physical well-being. And be honest, when the holidays pop up, often there's a lot more time spent with family and devoted to social time and parties and everything else that goes with it. And sometimes your professional life, if you are a business owner, your business doesn't come number one or number two anymore. And that's okay. Schedule your life so that you're not doing a launch right then, if that's possible. It depends on your business cycle and your professional life and how that calendar works. But be honest of what you can take on. Oftentimes around the holidays, we take on more than we do at other times of the year. So something has to fall off. As I said, I've learned this. I can't do everything and do it well and do it the way I want it to be done. So I pick, this particular week, I've got 3 holiday parties coming up. I have to bake for that. I need to show up. I need to look good. I want to look good. I want to have fun when I'm at the party. I don't want to be guilty and feel bad that I'm not doing stuff for my business. So I look ahead and figure out what are my priorities. And then, as I'm sure other guests here today will be sharing, is how to be mindful and in the moment and really enjoy what's going on at that time, and not feel bad that I'm not doing something else. So for this, it's really, what are my top priorities? What is my purpose? And pick it and be honest that sometimes my spirituality is number 5 on the list, and that's okay. And it's not forever. And so really, as I said, the major areas that I focus on are work and professional and business owning, if you're a business owner, family, social, spiritual, and physical health.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And what I think is really key to highlight too is that we are all each going to have our own method or way to prioritize what's important to each of us. And it's key to know, well, what is that for me, right? Here's what I love about discussions like this is we're going to get to hear tips from everybody. And while there's going to be probably some crossover, there might also be some things that differ. And that's okay. That's okay for you watching as well. It's about knowing what works for you and making sure that you are prioritizing what works for you. So I thank you, Sue. I love that you shared that. And I do see we've got some guests back in the lobby, but I want to go ahead and hear from Dr. Rhoberta, Shaler, and Whitney before we start to cycle through some more people. So, as we've just started this conversation, has anything shown up already for either you, Whitney, or you, Rhoberta, that you would like to dive into? Whitney?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, as a speaker and certified life coach, excuse me, and ordained minister, I coach and counsel powerful women around the world. And one of the things that I've noticed is that holidays specifically can be very stressful for them for various reasons. And the main reason, or one of the primary reasons, is that they struggle with that type A perfectionist of trying to do it all and prioritizing others over themselves. And these are the things that get you in trouble and lead to burnout during the holidays. So, excuse me, I'm sorry about that. What I'd like to do during today's show is talk about a couple of tips and action steps that I would recommend that would really help in terms of preventing burnout. And the first one is actually having a self-care practice. And the reason for that is because if we don't take care of ourselves, nobody else is going to do it for us.
Right.
And so, I recommend that if people who already have a self-care practice, don't give it up during the holidays. Don't let it be like the first thing that goes, because that's one of the times when you will really benefit from it. And on the other hand is if you don't yet have a self-care practice, it's a great time to start one. And when I say a practice, I mean, it could be just one thing. As a matter of fact, if you're starting a new practice during the holidays, I recommend it being just one thing. And my suggestion is either meditating or doing a body scan. So at the end of our discussion today, you'll learn how you can get my particular body scan that I've created, which is From Burnout to Balance, simple 10-minute daily self-care practice. So it's just 10 minutes. I do it in the morning. And what it does is it helps me get in touch with what's going on in my body, how I'm feeling, am I stressed, and really helps me to communicate with my body, and that helps my body to work with me rather than against me.
Nice. What I have noticed is that if you're someone that's already really busy and then you add more things on, you have to make sure, and I'm speaking for me, right? Maybe other people have different perspectives, but you have to then make sure you are one of those extra things you've added to your to-do list. You have to, because like you said, like no one else is going to do it for you. And there's a saying out there that if you don't have 10 minutes to meditate, well, then you probably need to meditate for an hour. And I kind of think of preventing burnout in the same way. If you're tacking on more things to your to-do list, well, then you better be one of those things and at the forefront of that list as well. So thank you, Whitney. I look forward to, we're going to be sharing our guests today. Some of them have free gifts. We're going to be sharing those in the comments for those that would like to check those out a little later. So awesome. So Dr. Rhoberta Shaler, I'm excited to hear what you have to share on this topic. Because it's going to touch on some nerves.
Yeah, well, I think one of the important things is when we're thinking about priorities, we're thinking about self-care and these so important things, is really, are you more involved with what other people need and want than keeping the balance between what you need and want? Because when we have difficult people in our life, toxic, relentlessly difficult people, the ones that I call hijackals, they're very demanding. They always want something. They want it their way. They want it when they want it. And they're really good at making you feel small and demeaned and diminished. And so you start to get in a box and you get really anxious about it. What are they going to do? And what do they need? And what will they say? And what if I don't invite them? And if I do invite them, will they be decent? And you got all that stuff going on. So when we have people in our life, and I know everybody just went, oh yeah, I know that person in my life. When we have that person that we don't really want to invite, but we have to invite because the repercussions will be awful, or we have to go and visit someone, maybe it's even your parent. Maybe you have a hijackal parent that you can't please, you've never been able to please, and you're trying really hard, and it's the holidays, so we want to make them feel included. So we get in the people-pleasing mode on steroids, and that is never going to be a good place to live. That is full of tension. And the other side of it, Kim, is whose expectations are we living up to for these holidays?
Yes.
Right? Are we living up to the expectations of some magazine that tells us we're perfect if we do this? Are we living up to the expectations of a hijackal parent? Are we living up to our own expectations? Do you know them? Do you know what your values are? Do you know what that looks like in practice, and what would keep you feeling in alignment and centered all the time, and particularly at the holidays? So These hijackal people can really put you off center and keep you off kilter unless you are proactively preparing to say, what am I really going to do about them?
Yeah. Proactive, I think, is the key word there, is to get out ahead, get in front of it before it becomes an issue.
Right.
Absolutely. So wonderful. Thank you so much for what you all have shared so far. And I'm really excited because we do have some additional guests that I want to bring on screen. And if I could have everyone on screen at the same time, I absolutely would. But I've only got space for 4 of us at the same time. So Whitney, I'm going to go ahead and put you back into lobby, and I would love if you would stay there because we'd like to bring you back up. And I'm going to go ahead and bring up Bruce. So give me a moment here. There he is. Welcome back, Bruce.
Oh, great to be here. Thanks so much for inviting me on the show. It's awesome to be here, Kim.
Absolutely. I'm glad to have you here. Well, so will you go ahead and just tell everyone, first off, who you are and what you do and why you wanted to talk about burnout today?
Right. I'm Bruce Langford. I'm a mindfulness life coach, and I have a podcast called Mindfulness Mode where people can learn about how to stay grounded and to stay calm and relaxed. And, that anxiety that builds and builds and builds and becomes huge at holiday time is something that so many of us share. And when I deal with my clients and help them through some of this stress and emotion and overwhelm, one of the things I tell them is, you know what, you've got to remember to be good to yourself. That's the number one thing. Take care of yourself. If that means, set aside time for a hot bath or some quiet time, get out into nature. I always encourage meditation because that is what we need. We need that break. We need to be able to give our mind a rest. And so I am offering a guided meditation at the end of this little chat where you can really relax and get to that space of being good to yourself. But there are a number of other things too. And one of them is have an exercise routine, and whatever you do, keep it up through the holiday time, because that's the first thing that goes. We get busy with gift purchasing and parties and all that stuff, and it's just, I don't have time to go to the gym. And that's part of being good to yourself. Keep up the swimming or the workouts, the jogging or the stretching, the yoga. Yoga is a great thing to practice during holiday time because it gives you that space.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you for sharing some tips there. And I think we've already gotten started on such a great foot by touching on so many different angles of burnout. And I want to just first ask each of you, do each of you feel like you've had your own burnout experience before? Yeah. For someone who may be intrigued by this topic and be thinking that, maybe they're burning out, or maybe that's something you need to be mindful of, but maybe they're not really sure because they don't realize what the symptoms look like or what their physical, mental, emotional, all of that experience can be like when they're in a space of burnout. I would love if each of you would just start to share some things, like what does it mean to be in burnout? What does that feel like? What does it look like? Anybody have any thoughts that come to mind?
Yeah, well, I would say that you just stop noticing your emotions. Those emotions are happening. You're feeling tension and stress and overwhelm, and you're not noticing what the emotions are. And therefore, you can't make rational decisions based on the emotions because you're not noticing them.
That's really good. Yes, absolutely. Bringing that focus back to focus and awareness back to who we are and what's going on with me first. It doesn't have to be about everything else out here first. First, I got to take care of me. I love that. Sue, any thoughts for you?
So when I fall into burnout, I am physically exhausted. I'm run down. I'm not taking care of myself. I'm not eating well. I'm not sleeping well. I put everybody else first. I forget about my needs. And as was mentioned before, it's so important to know what's important to me and my expectations for myself first, and then to see how that fits into everybody else in my life. One thing I actually just heard on a podcast this morning that made 100% sense and was the words I needed to hear. When I'm burned out or just stressed in general, my resistance is whirling in my head. There are so many voices that say, oh, I just need to read another book instead of taking action. I need to do X, Y, and Z, or that's a really bad idea. Why am I moving forward with it? And those voices get so loud and they sound so right. They're not, but they sound so convincing, especially when I'm worn down, when I just want that voice to be right. And it trips me up from taking action and moving forward and doing the things that I know in my gut are the right things to be doing right now.
Awesome. I was reading something this morning, and what I loved is they were making the distinction that, there's stress and burnout is on the continuum of that. Burnout is, on the far end of lots of stress. And I think that that's a really good distinction to make, because we can think, well, stress is normal. Like, we all have stress, I'm going to have lots of things going on in my life. I have to juggle a lot of balls. But where are you on that continuum of continually juggling all those balls, and how is it affecting you? So absolutely. So Dr. Rhoberta Shaler, what are your thoughts?
Well, on that continuum, we have two ends. We have what's called eustress, which is, woohoo, this is happening. I'm so excited. I'm looking forward to it, which is the same thing happening in your body as distress. But we have to learn to tell the difference between the two. And that's where our wisdom lies. So I think one of the things that maybe will be helpful to think about, if you've got a tape running in your head that says should, and that's what you're like, I should do that. I should be there. I should be able to keep up with that. And you start running that, your shoulders are going to come up to your earlobes. And pretty soon you're going to be running on that energy, as opposed to being in your body and in that place of comfort and awareness. You're going to be running, sort of skimming off the top. And when you are running on that, you are running towards should. And that is a place of high tension. So if we can just, do what Bruce says, meditate, relax. I think that a really good deep breath is the most luxurious, least expensive vacation in the world.
Yes.
So learn to do that regularly, often. Reoxygenate yourself. Get rid of the carbon dioxide. It allows you to clear your head. And even if, I think about burnout, you asked that question. I was a young mom, divorced, 3 children, very little child support, working full time, getting a PhD. I ran on that. Had to, kids were depending on me.
Right.
But there came a time when I hit the wall, and I had to take some time away, not from the children, but from the job that I was not thrilled with, but paid the bills. And I ended up back in the day having to take what was called stress leave, and frowned upon because, well, what's wrong with you? Can't you keep up? I mean, you need stress leave. But, let's all be aware that we regulate this. It's not somebody else doing it to us. We are the ones who are reacting to life, responding to life, and choosing this. So what we're talking about today is how to be aware and awake and alive and alert to, what is my stress level? Where am I participating in this, and where can I refuse to participate?
I love that. What I found is that when you don't include yourself, eventually that burnout will catch up to you, that you're forced to include yourself, and potentially only be able to focus on yourself because you can't do anything else. So to me, that's another key, where if it's so important to you to take care of all these other, balls that are in the air, then you have to make sure you're taking care of yourself too, because eventually you'll reach a point where you can't even do any of those other things anyway. Wonderful. So Cheryl, I see Cheryl in the lobby, and I think she's ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead and bring on another awesome guest. So Sue, I'm going to go ahead and drop you down into the lobby, but I'd love if you would stay with us so you can join us again as well. And let us know in the comments what is coming up for you I see we've got some live viewers with us, and it just takes a moment here. There we go. Welcome, Cheryl.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Great. I'm excited about this topic because when I had my child, the firstborn was a child with a lot of problems. He had cerebral palsy, but it took us almost a year and a half before we knew what was wrong. And in the meantime, I had doctors just saying, "Oh, Miss Ginnings, you're just a new mother. You don't understand. Nothing's wrong with him," when it was. And it was clearly a problem. And it wasn't until I almost broke my health down that we finally got a doctor to listen. And this was so long ago, people never talked about how the caregiver should take care of themselves. We didn't have, internet, so we couldn't just Google something to find out where do you go for help. And we felt very lost. And I'm finding that a lot of parents that have special needs kids, and especially in this area, don't have a clue where to go for resources. They don't know what's available. They don't know if they qualify for anything. And they're just totally not able to Google a lot of times. They don't even know how to start. And I am very passionate about this because by the time my son was about 11, I had worked so hard with all of the therapists giving me an hour homework a day, which turned into 5 hours of homework, plus having a baby, having a child that was in grammar school, being a minister's wife. And then my father-in-law died and we brought his mom to live with us. And she was one of those hijackers that Rhoberta was talking about a while ago. But anyway, my health completely broke down and our son immediately had to leave home. And I was very ill for a long time. So I've learned a lot from the way not to do it. Okay. And that's why I'm passionate about what you're talking about today and just being able to encourage people. You have to be in tune with yourself. And most of us that are caregivers and are very passionate about caregiving don't realize how to do that. And we have, I don't know if you've had this statistic or not, but 67% of caregivers will pass away before the person they're caring for. And it goes to 70% if you're over the age of 70. Now, those are alarming figures, and it means we need to start teaching young people what caregiving is all about. And Rosalind Carter said not long ago, you will either be a caregiver or you will be cared for in the future. So our future is learning what happened. How did people deal with it? What did they learn that we need to learn? And then teach each other with support groups, with books, with whatever we can, how to keep them from losing their health. And that was my clue that I was in burnout when I completely broke down. And so I've tried to watch, but life is just a juggle. I mean, I've had a husband almost dying at the same time I was trying to help with my mom 200 miles away and stay with her part of the time, and then have a son that I could not take care of, but I would be with him. And he was almost 200 miles another way. And it was just complete having to look after other people. So life gets in the way of our plans, so we do the best we can.
Yeah. And that's why I'm so glad that you're here to contribute to this conversation, because I think so many people are in some form of a caregiver mode. Some may be, be very aware they're in a caregiver mode, but others may not, because they may think it's just, I'm a mother. It's my regular, I'm supposed to, take care of my kid, and you don't maybe think of yourself as a caregiver, and to what degree your focus is continually being shifted away from you. And we all get it. Your kids are a priority, and that is important. But what do you do when you've got situations like that where, where you've got a child, or you've got, an elderly parent or a special needs person in your life that you have to devote more attention to? How do you carve out that time? I love that Sue, who's in the lobby right now, she brought up time management. Bruce, Rhoberta, Cheryl, what are your thoughts on that?
I'll just add to that conversation, because I think what we're talking about is something that I've given a lot of trainings on, and it's compassion fatigue. We we're taught to give until it hurts, which is a phrase I would like to take out of the language entirely, because if everybody did that, everybody would be hurting. But to understand that we have compassion fatigue. We care about people. We want the best for them. We want to help them. And we come back again to that balance that we were talking about, that Sue was talking about and Whitney was talking about, to say, okay, I'm in this equation too. And I can't give a gift I don't have. Right. If I don't have peace, if I don't have some sense of balance in my life, I can't contribute it. And so that is a very compelling reason for taking care of ourselves. It's not selfish. It is a compelling reason to take care of ourselves so that we have the gift to give. And I think if we just think about, am I in compassion fatigue? As opposed to, oh, haven't I given enough? Somewhere I can dig down deep and give everything that I have, and then I'll be a basket case and someone will be taking care of me. So let's avoid compassion fatigue.
I love that you brought that up, because what I found is when we give, eventually we're an empty vessel. And even if people at that point are trying to give to us, we can't even fully receive because we've been in such give mode. And so by starting to take care of ourselves first, then we actually become a receptacle to be able to hold our own self-care, but also be able to receive when others give to us. And then be in that flow and take care of our priorities and other people in our lives and responsibilities and things like that. Bruce, did you have something you wanted to share?
Yeah, I did. I think that one of the things the traps that we fall into, especially at holiday time, is forgetting that you are enough. Those three words, I am enough. I am not about the car I drive. I am not about the house I live in or the friends I have or how beautiful my home is decorated. That is not who I am. I am enough just the way I am. And, it's all about ego, but we fall into this trap, don't we, Kim? We do. We fall into this trap and we think, oh my gosh, my home isn't decorated beautifully enough. I don't have enough food for the get together, or, all of these things. And it's just not who we are. We're making the mistake that, I am enough just the way I am, no matter what all of those material things look like.
Oh, that is such a good point. I feel like that's the theme of all of this, is you are enough. And if we just sit with that alone, then what weight does that start to lift off of our shoulders and help us to be able to reprioritize?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it takes huge weight. And that's what my clients have found when I help them with that. And some people are like, what do you mean I am enough? I don't really get it, And I've been there too, like when I was going to university, I was doing 2 or 3 jobs, and I was working, trying to achieve. And I had to do a lot of those things, but it was so easy to fall into that trap of being so stressed, so overwhelmed, thinking, oh my gosh, I won't be able to accomplish enough. I won't be able to do enough. And it is a very easy trap to fall into. We have to be able to sit back and take it easy, meditate a little bit, have some quiet time or some exercise or some being nature where you can just believe I am enough.
I love that. Cheryl, did you have something you wanted to say there?
I did, and I have to apologize. I'm not hearing anything from when they're in the lobby, so I don't want to repeat something, but I have 5 things that I try to help people with, because so many of the people I've interviewed through the last few years have said that they just wish that other people would step in and help them, but they don't ask. So I have 5 things that I want to just mention real quickly that have been helpful to me.
Okay.
First of all, B stands for be bold. Ask for what you need. And if you don't ask, they don't have this magic intuition of knowing what you're thinking. So be bold and say, I need help with whatever it is. 2 is live in one day type compartment, like Dale Carnegie said. And, we just have to live for today. We can't go back and say, why did this happen to me? And, all of that kind of moaning that goes on a lot of times. Live for today. Take care of that. A stands for your attitude. That may be the only thing that you can change. And your attitude will either make you a better person for going through what you're doing and getting stronger, or it will make you bitter, negative, and people will not want to be around you at all. They'll avoid you at all costs. K is get knowledgeable. What do you need? What's out there? What resources are available? And then tag into some of those things. If it's a babysitting program, or if it's special needs care or something, try to find out what's out there. And then E is take some encouragement from people who want to give it to you. And you say, oh, I don't need anything. No, you do. You need to let them come if it's for an hour, or if they just pick up your groceries. I had a surgery one time, and I had 2 women that came to my door with a toilet brush over their shoulders. And I just was like, what are you doing? And they said, we know that you can't do this right now, and we know that your husband's not going to think of it, and your kids are too young, so we're going to do your toilets. And they did that. We laughed, and they left. I had another lady that just came and changed my sheets once a week, and we laughed. We enjoyed that. And so, I'm telling you from experience, don't let yourself be the person who's totally left out of what all you need. The other thing I wanted to mention is I'm getting ready for a foot surgery that will keep me in 8 weeks, and the holidays are coming up. I'm already thinking back. This happened to me about 5 years ago, and we had 17 people in our home for Christmas, and I was on a knee scooter, and I was told, do not stand. So what I did was really fun. I just told my daughter that was really a good chef, I said, you come first, and then you make the list of what you need, and you go to the store with your dad, and you get the groceries. And I'm going to let you guys all do all of the planning for cooking or whatever your kids need, anything. I booked a room at a hotel, and my husband and I left the house and let all of the young 3 families with all their kids stay there. And when we came back in the morning, they already had breakfast, they had done the dishes, and they were playing games. And I thought, that was the best move I ever made.
I love it.
So I'm just planning to not do much this time, too. I'm just going to let them, if they come, great. If they don't.
Cheryl, thank you for sharing that story with us. I love that. And what I'm also hearing in that is, when someone asks if we need help or if we need anything, it's our responsibility to say yes. It's not up to that other person. So I find that self-care and prioritizing yourself, preventing burnout, it's a very responsible thing that we have to do for ourselves, if we want to pay attention, to our own self-care. So wonderful. I want to go ahead and bring back Whitney, who's been waiting in the lobby with us. So Dr. Rhoberta, I'm going to go ahead and put you down in the lobby. I hope that you will stay there, though, so we can bring you back. Okay, well, I take it back. It's I can't seem to get to you, Rhoberta, somehow. So Cheryl, I'm going to go ahead and put you down in the lobby, and we're going to bring Whitney back. Welcome back, Whitney.
Hey, it's great to be back.
Yes. So you've been hearing the conversation. What thoughts have come up for you that you'd like to share with us now, too?
Yeah, lots of stuff. Good stuff. For example, you had asked about burnout and how I knew I was getting into burnout. And the thing that really, what I would say that stood out for me in terms of being on that burnout cycle was the feeling of being out of control. Of really being just so overwhelmed that I felt like I was just hanging on. And that is, once you feel that way, you're headed into that burnout, onto that burnout journey, I'll say. So that was one piece that I just wanted to kind of, pop in there.
Okay, thank you.
And the other thing that I feel hasn't really been addressed yet, and it happens to be another tip that I was going to mention anyway, and it actually, I'm going to kind of talk about 2 different things because 2 different tips that relate, that relate with each other. And the first is that one of the things that I have learned the hard way is to say no to the things that aren't going to serve me. And it's a little bit around the prioritizing. However, a lot of people don't know how to say no. And that could be in so many different areas. It could be just in spending money, overspending for the holidays.
Okay.
In overeating during the holidays. In going to every party and event that you're invited to volunteering for every committee you're asked to join. I mean, those are just some of the things that come to mind. And I mean, I'll never forget, there was a Christmas Eve when I was invited to a couple of parties that night, Christmas Eve, and then a brunch in the morning. And I remember the overwhelm, of course, of trying to get all the holiday things done. And going to the store at the last minute and picking up some ingredients for a dessert for a potluck and, you know, making the dessert and then starting to wrap the gifts. And before you knew it, of course, my perfectionist personality had kicked in with the wrapping of the gifts. And I was so drained from running around and putting pressure on myself to get everything done that I began to doze while wrapping the gifts. And I actually slept through both events that night and the morning brunch. I was so exhausted from everything that had, you know, just all of the preparation for the holidays. And, you know, I learned some things like, you know, saying no to myself in some ways because I wanted to be a perfectionist. And I had to say no to perfectionism. And instead, you know, buy a pre-made dish for the potluck. You know, maybe only choosing to attend one of the events, and then I could have enjoyed that one instead of missing both. Or, you know, having somebody else wrap my gifts, like a gift wrapping service.
Yeah.
So that was the one part that I wanted to talk about, which actually then goes into the next piece, which is to say yes to the joy. You know, my belief is that life is meant to be enjoyed, not endured. Mm-hmm. So think about, what do you love about the holidays? You know, for me, it's getting together with my family and singing Christmas carols.
Yeah.
How can you make sure that you don't miss out on the things that you enjoy? What do you need to say no to so you have time for the joy?
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. One thing that's coming up for me as you're talking about that is to take a moment to look at what we have on our plate and go, okay, what options do I have here? Because we may think that we're locked into everything, right? Oh, you know, I have this relative having this party and this person has this thing going on and I have to buy gifts for all these other people. And we may have tunnel vision about it. We may think that there's only one way to do it, right? You know, I'm going to have to sacrifice my taking, you know, going to the gym. I may have to just, eat whatever's available and I'm not going to prioritize my food. Or can I just take a moment now to go, okay, this is what there is to do. What other options could I have so that I make sure I'm still a priority and being fed and nourished throughout all these things that I have to accomplish? And sort of step out of, well, here's something I wanted to say. So burnout for me tends to look like getting caught up in this space and thinking that things only look one way. So if we are operating from this space, then how can we just take a moment to pause and say, well, what other options are there, and allow something else to show up? So I wanted to add that to the conversation. Dr. Rhoberta Shaler, I'm going to go ahead and drop you back down because I want to bring Sue back up and hear some of her thoughts on this as well. Welcome back, Sue.
Hi, thank you. So a few different things have been popping up for me that I would love to share with everybody. One thing that you just said is options. And I know for me and for a lot of people I talk with, headed into burnout and sometimes even into clinical depression and more not serious, but other areas where, you know, you're really imploding and really feeling that there are no more options left in life. And one of the key things for me and what I've gone through when dealing with this in my life at multiple times is really seeing everything and saying, is this real? You know, is there really only one way to do this? Is there only one way to move forward in life? And really, usually the answer is no. And it's how creative can I be to open up my vision and allow other possibilities, and then talk with people. Maybe somebody else has a possibility for me. And so for me, that's key. Once I start narrowing down and thinking of the should that was mentioned earlier, and really just seeing one path and not really liking that path, then really that's the time to say, what's going on? Why am I thinking this way? What are the other options? And then one of the other pieces that came to mind is when adding things into my calendar, especially around holidays, what can be subtracted and what is a sacred time that can get rescheduled but doesn't get canceled. So I'm a very visual person. I color code my Google Calendar. My physical stuff is all in blue. My spiritual stuff is yellow. My social stuff is aqua. It doesn't matter what the color is. Business stuff is green. And I'll look at the whole week and say, where are my physical things? Where are my social things? What's going on? What's a little out? What's missing? That's my first question. So what's missing? And then, okay, so I got invited to this party. That's the time that I'm normally at the gym. Well, maybe I don't go to the gym that day, but maybe instead of that, I put in a 15-minute walk. And the weather's crappy, so I'm going to the mall. And yes, it's crazy time, but I can get inside and I can move. And that's the piece that's important for that aspect. Or, something else pops up with work, with family, and it's like, what else would I have been doing normally, not holiday time, at that time? And can I transform that to another time of the day or to be included in whatever is happening? So maybe Tuesday night is the night that I hang out with friends or I talk on the phone with someone and I'm really social. So then I get invited to a party Tuesday night. Okay, so that transforms from hanging out with my girlfriends to being at this party and my reminding myself that that party is meant to be social. It's meant to be joyful. It's meant to be fun. There was a third piece popped in my head and is now gone, and I'm sure it'll come back. But those two things I really thought were important to add to this conversation.
Thank you for adding that. Yeah, and if the third one comes back, let us know. Something I'd like to highlight is taking time to listen to our bodies during the holidays. And I see some heads nodding. So what thoughts come up for each of you when we just talk about that? Because I'll say first for me is when we've got the chaos of the holidays, the shopping, the events, all the food and the eating and the excuses we might come up with. Oh, it's okay to let this or that go. That's when we're not listening to our body even more and more. And so by remembering to bring it back to our body, it can help us to bring that focus back for ourselves. So Bruce, I see you nodding your head. What's coming up for you? Well,
what comes up is that we have to take care of our bodies and our brain, which is part of our body. Yeah. And that sense of overwhelm just shuts down our brain, and then we get all this tension in our body, and I can just feel my neck and shoulders getting closer to my head so that I have no neck, all this tension. And so I find that stretching and moving, just even if I don't have a chance to go to the gym or to go jogging, I can just do some stretching and moving. And one of the things that they say for brain health, and I know this is true, is that just do some moving where you're moving your left hand into your right region and your right hand into the left hemisphere of your visual space, and just do a little bit of moving like that, and it can start to really relax the tension in your neck and shoulders. And become aware of that so that you can just do a little bit of gentle bouncing if you have like a trampoline or something like that, and just allow that tension to work its way through. And if you have time to have a massage, and who doesn't? You have to make time for those things, like we said at the beginning. Just put that into your schedule ahead of time so that you've got a few massages booked over the holiday time. That can be a big plus.
Absolutely. I love the tips that you just shared, Bruce. And I always have to acknowledge this, that sometimes the things that are going to help us are going to sound so simple that it can be easy to discount them and not really recognize the immense value in them.
That's right.
And so if we can also then start to look at them and go, wait a second, that is so simple. That is something I can do while I'm, maybe you're at a red light driving to your next party, but you're at a red light. You can take a few minutes, cross your arms in front of yourself, and just notice the difference. I love that Dr. Rhoberta Shaler earlier mentioned the importance of breathing, because it wasn't until somewhere in the last 5 years that I actually realized the importance of breathing. Yeah. And we can go our whole lives potentially with not ever realizing that. And there's so much that we can gain just from taking time to pay attention to our breath and just be mindful in that itself. So I love that. Thank you, Bruce, for sharing those exercises. And Sue, I saw you nodding your head as he was sharing some of that. Do you want to talk to that?
Sure. So one of the key things that has happened in my life this past year is really seeing the value and my self-worth in my physical being. I know that sounds funny coming from someone who's a power lifter who, rips a lot of weight off the floor. And it just was, where am I spending my time and my energy, and what pieces of myself are getting my attention? And I realized that my physical self, my sleep, my eating, were not at the level that I need them to be in order to take care of myself and to be at my physical best. And so, that's something to really think about during the holiday season, and literally any time that something stressful or a lot of events are going on that might not be part of your regular life, is how do I take care in self-care of every aspect of myself? So the emotional, the spiritual, the physical, and the intellectual, and to try to get pieces in for each of that.
So that's why I love that you're actually here, because you are a world record power lifter who's able to talk about the importance of mindset and spirituality and tuning into your body and all of that. It's so important to have a world record power lifter talking about the importance of that. So I don't think it sounds weird at all. And I love that is part of your message. We are getting towards the end of this show, and I definitely want to make sure we get final thoughts from each of you. And so as as I start to cycle through each of our guests, I would love for you to share, you've all shared so much already, but share at least, one tip or maybe a positive affirmation that someone can start to say to themselves as they're, starting to see all the different things they've got going on, for the holidays, add up on their calendar. What would be one piece of final advice you can leave them with? And so, Whitney, let's go ahead and start with you.
Yeah, well, I have one really quick one, and then one that I think will kind of help them with what we've done today, what we've spoken about today.
Okay.
I don't know how many people actually know this, but smiling, actually, just the act of smiling releases endorphins.
Yes.
And makes you feel good. So even if you feel lousy, smile, because you'll end up feeling better just by the act of smiling. So that's my one quick tip. And the other piece that I wanted to talk about is, we've just mentioned a lot of different, a lot of wisdom, a lot of gems, a lot of tips. And I know for myself that when I'm trying to be in action on 20 different things, I end up not doing any of them.
Oh.
So I want to invite our listeners to really just to start by picking one or two things to put into practice. And then maybe later, adding one or two other things. But just keep in mind that, this is going to be this is recorded. So you can listen to this again. But, anything done in excess causes overwhelm, and that includes self-care and, even doing anything for yourself. So that's just my final tip for the day.
Thank you. Thank you. I love that. Bruce, how about you?
Well, I interviewed Kate Erickson for my show, and she's a productivity expert. And one of the things she said is, take the time to be quiet and think about all the different things you need to do and then batch them. And that's what I do with my podcast. I do all my interviews on certain days. I do all my editing on certain days. And that's what we can do for the holidays. Think of all the things you need to do. Maybe you're thinking about, getting all your cleaning done. Well, arrange for that. If you're having somebody help you to take care of your office, your home, any spaces, and just arrange for that all together. Or your gift shopping, a lot of us, I think we think, oh, I've got that one more gift to get. And then we run to the store and then, oh yeah, I forgot about another one. And we run to the store again. And we really need to take the quiet time to think about these things ahead of time, jot down on a list, and then do all the shopping at one time, all the baking at one time, all of these things that can simplify your life immensely. So, and then one final thing, just make use of essential oils, which brings a lot of calm to my clients, a lot of relaxation, and just have some essential oils with some diffusers on hand so that you can help everybody feel relaxed by putting on a beautiful scent.
I love that, Bruce. Yes. Thank you for that. It's that quiet time that if you're not used to carving out time for yourself, you may think that it's one extra thing to do. But what I love that you just highlighted is that when we take that extra time for ourselves, it actually can allow us to organize the rest of everything else so it can be streamlined, go more smoothly, flow more.
Exactly.
And bring more peace into all those other things that we're doing too. So that's great. I love that.
And Bruce, I just have to say one thing. I have 3 diffusers going right now with essential oils in my house. So
that's awesome.
No wonder you're so relaxed.
That's so great.
Sue, how about you? I know you've shared so much already, but are there any final parting tips you'd like to share with our audience?
Sure. There are 2 things that dovetail together. So one is when we're figuring out what we can take on and how to delegate to other people. So oftentimes we think about delegating and it's in a work environment, but really take some of those skills and that mindset into the rest of life. Could be with friends, can be with family. When you think about how great you feel helping other people, remember that when you're asking someone else to help you, because they will feel that wonderfulness as well. That it's not the burden that I initially would think it is to ask someone else to help me. It's the opportunity for them to feel good and to be able to do something. And with delegating, with any great leader, is fill in the details and the purpose. So the overarching reason why this thing is important, and any details that are very specific and necessary, and let the person do the rest. That they figure out all the extra details, all the timing, all the everything. Trust them that they will do it in the best possible way.
Oh, that's excellent. I love it. Cheryl, do you have any final parting, tips or thoughts you'd like to share with the audience?
Well, I love the things that everybody shared. And one thing to connect to what Sue just said, I remember when I had a major surgery when I was young, and my sister came and she said, Cheryl, you always help other people. And when they come and you say, oh, no, I don't need anything, you have deprived them of a blessing. And I started reverse thinking how that was true.
Yeah.
And so sometimes our thinking is what gets us in trouble. We think we have to do everything for it to be right. No, we don't. And really, as I'm getting older, I'm beginning to step back and to sit down, because I've noticed my husband can. He can sit there through all the chaos and just allow myself to do what he's doing, which is nothing but enjoying the moment.
Oh, gosh. I had another thought there, but the humor overtook it all. So I love that. Thank you, Cheryl. That was wonderful. Welcome back, Rhoberta. How about you? Do you have any final thoughts you'd like to share?
I do. I have a couple. I think it's important just to return to what I started with about the toxic people. Because the definition of a hijackal, and of course it's my trademark term so that we don't ascribe psychological diagnoses to these people. We just need to know about their patterns, traits, and cycles. But my definition for them, which might be helpful to you, is that these are people who hijack relationships for their own purposes, and then they relentlessly scavenge them for power, status, and control. So if you have somebody who's taking up way too much mental real estate or emotional real estate in your life, how am I going to keep them happy? What are they going to expect? How will I keep them from blowing up the celebrations? Do I really have to go and visit them? Do I have to live up to their expectations? The answer is no. And it's important for you to know. And if you're wondering if you have such a person, I have a free ebook for you. It's called How to Spot a Hijack Call. So if you're thinking you just have a difficult person, there's a distinction between a difficult one and a relentlessly difficult one. And go to hijackals.com, and you spell that hijack, ALS.com.
Wonderful.
So the last tip that I would have is remember, you matter. And keep that. You are precious and you matter. And if you can't function, you cannot give your best or experience the best during the holidays.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'm going to be talking with Dr. Rhoberta Shaler in an upcoming episode where we're going to get to hear a lot more about that. Thank you to every single guest that's been here today. We have Sue Priver, Cheryl Ginnings, Dr. Rhoberta Shaler, Whitney Gordon-Mead, and Bruce Langford were with us today. And I'm going to just go ahead and give a little shout out to Sarah Ross, who was not able to join us, but it was actually the inspiration for today's show. And we shared so much. Each of you shared so much of your wisdom and your expertise and your insights. There are so many juicy nuggets for you, the audience, you, the listener, to take away from. And I want to bring it back to something I mentioned earlier, that it's about tuning in with yourself. And it's not about saying, oh, I have to do what Sue and Rhoberta and Cheryl and Whitney and Bruce, I have to do everything they just said. It's about you identifying what's going to work for you. And by taking that time to pause, to tune in, to be more mindful with your body and just take a break from everything, you're going to be able to tap into what are those things? What are those tools or those tips that are going to best serve and support you? So I hope you have found something useful here today. I know I absolutely have. I enjoyed this conversation immensely. So thank you to everyone here today. And as mentioned earlier, some of our guests, if not all of our guests, do have a freebie that they're going to share with us. And we're going to go ahead and put those in the comments for you to take a look at after if you'd like to check that out further. So lastly, remember that every day is always a new day. So even if yesterday felt like overwhelm and burnout, today is a brand new day. What can you choose to do differently today? You have the ability to say, okay, you know what? This is my day. This is not everyone else's day. Even if you've got other priorities and things you have to take care of, it's also your day. And when you ask for help, just be aware that it might come to you in different ways. And so we had the emphasis on saying no. We also had the emphasis on saying yes. And so just know, where might it benefit you to shift a little bit so that you can receive the help and also be your own source of help. So I hope you have a fantastic holiday season. You can always go to KimO'NeillCoaching.com to find out more about the Every Day is a New Day show and the coaching services I provide. And just always remember that you are enough, you matter, there is always hope, and every day is always a new day. Have a wonderful day, everybody. I'll see you next time.
And that's today's show. So, what are you taking away? Let me know down in the comments wherever you listened or watched today's episode, and connect with me on Facebook on the Every Day is a New Day show and coaching page, or visit KimO'NeillCoaching.com for more info. Remember, every day is always a new day. Wherever you are today does not have to be where you are tomorrow. There is always hope, and you will always be amazing. I'll see you next time.